Hey everyone, and welcome to our Give Live webinar. I'm Matt Cromwell, Head of Support at GiveWP.com and WordImpress.com. Give is an online donation plugin for WordPress. Our goal is to democratize generosity. We do that by making online donation forms as elegant, flexible, and robust as possible while still being very user-friendly. Unlike third-party platforms, we do not take any commissions from your donations. We leave all of that up to you and your payment gateway of choice. That enables you to have lower fees, and that means more people and more causes can be hosting high-quality donation forms on their websites, which is what we call democratization. Give Live, this is Give Live. This is our third Give Live now, our third Give Live webinar. We've covered SSL certificates, we've covered recurring donations, and today we're going to talk about custom form fields and how they can be awesome or they could be terrible, depending on how you implement them on your donation forms. Next month, we're going to start a new schedule, actually. Instead of Tuesday mornings, we're going to be on Wednesday late afternoons. So next month is on Wednesday, February 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. It's a new schedule. We're going to try that out, see if there's more viewers available at that time. Of course, all of our webinars are recorded as well, so you can always come back later, but the live element allows people to ask questions on the fly and definitely directs the way that I answer questions and I respond to them. So being here is awesome. Thanks to those of you who are here already. I see Lisa Snyder from New Jersey. That's awesome. Tora to the Tribes from, I believe that should be Oregon. Yellow Hat from Nashville. Play Like a Girl. Oh, Play Like a Girl. How you doing? I saw that you're a relatively new customer. That's awesome. Thanks for being here. Cool. So today, though, we are going to be talking about custom form fields. And the subtitle I gave it is The More the Merrier, with a question mark. One of our most popular add-ons at Give is our Form Field Manager, which allows you to add additional fields to your donation forms. This ability is both a blessing and a curse, quite honestly. The ability to add custom fields is really important, but when you ask donors for more information, it takes them a little bit more time to donate. Which can be problematic. So finding the right balance between those two things, getting the information that you need, but also making sure that that donating is easy and doesn't take a bunch of time. Finding that balance is really important. So right up front, if you have some important questions or relevant questions about form fields, go ahead and type them into that chat box right away, and I will incorporate my answers to those throughout the presentation. I'm always watching the chat screen to see what people are interested in. Even if you don't have a specific question, maybe you have a comment or something that you struggled with, whatever it is that's on your mind that you'd love to hear direct information on, type it in there and I'll get to it right away. I see also Carlos joined from Barcelona. Thanks for being here, Carlos. Cool. Oh, and Play Like a Girl is also from Nashville. We got two from Nashville. You guys should maybe get a co-working space, hang out, get to know each other. That's cool. All right. So real quick, just an overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about when, oh, I'm sorry, I have to call out. Veronica is here from San Diego. We're like down the street. Veronica's here from where I'm in San Diego. I'm right in the middle of downtown, Veronica. We're right on G and 5th Street in downtown, right in the Gaslamp district. Cool. Glad you're here. So real quick, 4 things we're going to talk about form fields today. When additional form fields are great, when additional form fields could go horribly wrong, and some alternatives to form fields, and how to make it happen with Give's Form Field Manager. Those are the things we're going to talk about. And of course, answering any questions that might come up. I'm going to just mention Lisa's question right now. She says, I customized the Give form with new custom fields, not using the add-on. That is one way to do it. And our documentation was so helpful. That's so great to hear. We spend a lot of time on our documentation. It's really important to us because we know it's important to you. So I'm glad to hear that those docs were useful. We're going to talk about them on this webinar as well. So let's get into when additional fields are great. Additional fields, of course, Give out of the box comes with the necessary fields to get donations on your website. You're going to get name, first and last. You're going to get email, and then anything that's payment related. And that's it on purpose. We purposely make sure that Give gives you the bare minimum of what is required to get donations. We take a minimalist approach because you can always add to that, but like pulling back fields is a lot harder to do effectively, and we want to make sure that we're doing best practices. And best practice really is to have as few fields as possible. Because you'll get more donations that way. As the easier it is for people to fill out your form and hit the donate button, the more donations you get. But there are times when adding a couple really specific fields is really effective. For example, a lot of people want to do an in memory of or in honor of donation. You want your donors to be able to say, I'm donating this money in memory of my grandma who inspired me so much. I'm giving this donation in honor of my aunt who is so great, or my uncle. Arash, I see your question there from Los Angeles. Awesome. I'll come to that real quick. How can custom form field data be shown into the email notification? That's a good question, and I have an answer for it. Well, we're going to get to that at the last segment when we talk about implementing Form Field Manager into our forms, and that's a good question. I'll get there. So they can be really useful for things like that. If you want to add an in memory of or an in honor of field, we are planning to release a free add-on that's going to add the in memory of and the in honor of field, because you want to do more things with that. You want to maybe send an email notification to the person you're donating in honor of. There might be some special reporting that you want to do on those types of things. You might want to ask for a mailing address to send that person a card in the mail. So we're going to release a free add-on for all of that whole feature eventually, but those are also custom additional fields. And we could talk about how you could do that. We're going another way the great use of additional fields, excuse me, is to ask questions about the fund that the donation should go to. Maybe you're a faith-based organization, maybe you're a congregation, and you have a seniors ministry, a youth ministry, you have a homeless ministry, and you want to give people the option to say, hey, I really like the homeless ministry. I want at least the majority of my funds to go to that. Adding fields to give people the ability to indicate what they're most interested in is a really great use of additional fields. Another good use is maybe for if you're maybe putting a donation form up for registration for an event, which I've done this myself a few times, and I see this request often. Give can't necessarily be a very extensive event manager, but if you're doing a basic event that just needs a door cost, a donation cost at the door, or you just have maybe a couple guests that are going to come along with you, you can add additional fields to say, hey, what are the names of your guests, or maybe what are their email addresses, so we can send them a confirmation of their RSVP. Those are great uses for additional fields as well. Generally, though, beyond those examples, it gets really hard to justify adding additional fields to your donation form. Why? Well, because it's a donation form. It's not a contact form. It's not a survey. It's not a poll. It's not a registration form. These are all really important and useful forms that you should probably have on your website. But those have a different purpose. You're probably going to want to use Caldera forms or Ninja forms or Gravity forms for those types of things, but you're going to want to use Give for your donation form, because that is our purpose. And when you want donations, you want to give them only the information that is necessary for donating. And the thing about those examples that I gave previously, though, is that they really share something in common. Generally speaking, adding less fields is more. The fewer fields you have, the better. So the examples I gave, though, is that they all relate directly to the donation itself. They relate to the donation. You see that the reason someone is donating is enhanced. You learn more about the donation itself. You see, the reason some donation forms get way out of control sometimes is because organizations start getting greedy about donor information. Sometimes they want to know everything about their donors, and this is how we go into how additional fields can go horribly wrong, our second point today. Instead of focusing on the donation itself, sometimes you do want to know a little bit more about your donor. You might need their mailing address, not just their billing address, things like that. But if you start focusing on them, it gets a little bit hairy. But for example, the examples I gave earlier, you want us to notify someone that you donated in their name. That's a great use case. That's great. That's about the donation. Oh, you want these funds to go to a specific fund or a category of funds? That's a great use case. That's about the donation. Oh, your donation entitles you to bring people with you to an event? Great use case. That sounds great. Whenever you're adding value to the donation itself or educating the donor that you are interested in their generosity, you're interested in what they are doing and what they want to do with these funds, then you win with custom form fields. But instead, if your custom fields are an excuse to get more information about your donor, you risk losing their trust in you. You're demanding that they give you information that is not relevant to the money. If donating forms is like dating, then the first donation is not supposed to be the home run. It's just the first date. You don't ask for the name of your date's children and their ages on a first date. You're just getting to know each other. So that kind of information really could come later. If you lose your donor's trust on your donation form, then they're most likely not going to donate. And they're definitely not going to want to continue following you or dealing with you in any way. So this is how additional form fields can become problematic. They can, they basically can risk that your donors have a bad experience. So though that's how they're great, and that's how they can go horribly wrong. Kevin says that you can't watch it from the page right now, only on YouTube. Well, I hope that most folks are on YouTube, because we got a lot of activity in the comments right now, which is great. Yeah. We'll have to do that some other time. I don't want to take the time right now to change those things. Let's talk real quick about alternatives to additional form fields. So I just explained how basically that you are there are ways that it could go really, really badly. Additional fields can go really wrong. So what do you do if you do need this information from your donors? Your organization wants to understand your donors better and wants to get to be able to serve their needs better. So you do need additional information, but the donation form is not necessarily the best point of contact for that kind of thing. Instead, let the donation form just be kind of like the entry, the door to a relationship with them. So, there's also a lot of things you could do before they get to the donation form that can help them to help you understand them better as well. For example, even though I said that your custom fields can help you to understand which fund they want to give to, sometimes you can get that information before they even get to the donation form. For example, Give supports categories and tags. You might want to create additional fields, additional forms that are categorized. Maybe you have a bunch of forms that are categorized under your homeless ministry, for example, or you have some forms that are categorized under your adult senior ministry. If you basically have a donation page, like our Give archive page, for example, which we have a couple posts on our blog, that list all the different forms, then basically you're asking them to make that choice, to indicate their choice by first going to the page that lists all the forms out. They see, oh, I can do homeless, I can do the youth program, I can do the adult program. I have choices here. I'm going to make that choice now. And then you don't even have to ask them what that choice was, because that's the form that they're going to fill out when they get there. And that's the form submission, the donation form submission that you're going to get is, oh, this is for the adult ministry. I already know that. That's the name of the form. So that before they even get to the donation form, you already have that information. And you don't have to ask them anything additionally at that point. So no field required whatsoever. There's lots of ways that you can do that as well. Maybe you want to start using referral links in one way or another. Maybe they came to your donation form from a certain MailChimp campaign, or they came from a specific Facebook post or Twitter link. All of those things can help indicate to you what exactly their main interest is. So then after they've donated, there's lots of ways that you can follow up with them as well. Rather than asking for all that information at the point of donation, you can follow up with them. And the reason why you want to follow up with them is you want to encourage a relationship with your donors. You want them to know that you're there for them, that there's more that you can offer them, that there's more ways that they can give to you. And so you might want to follow up with a MailChimp campaign. You might want to follow up by mail. But also doing those follow-ups, doing a targeted email, or a targeted snail mail to them, shows them that you care, and it's very direct. It's very personal. It adds kind of that personal touch. So instead of asking for the child's names and ages at the point of donation, you might say, hey, we noticed that you are interested in our early child care fund. Do you have children? What ages are your children? How can we help your children? How can we assist you? That's really personable, and it helps to establish your relationship, and it gets you the information that you need to understand your donors better. It is going to be slower. It is going to take some time on the other end of the donation, but from what we've seen overall in our experiences with nonprofits and our experience with Give, is that investing in your donors after the point of donation really benefits your organization a lot, and it increases your donations because it's just easier to give because you're asking for less information there. So that's some of the alternative ways that you can think about this as well. Generally, what I try to say is, like, when you're looking at your donation form, does this field give me actionable information about the money? That's usually my test of whether or not we should add a new field to this form or not. If it's just me being greedy, I'm gonna greedy about the donor information. Maybe I need to think more creatively about how I can get that information more in a relationship building way rather than at the point of donation. Cool. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to review a couple questions here. Let's see. Oh, Lisa also mentioned the deprecated hooks article. Yeah, we're trying to be as communicative as possible about changes that are coming up. 1.8, Give 1.8 actually is coming out this week, probably at the end of this week. And we haven't actually written a lot about it because most of the development happened over the holidays and it's been a slow publishing cycle. But there's some really exciting stuff coming in 1.8. So I hope we do. I know we will write an update on that most likely next week. But all of our docs are being updated right now to reflect all these changes. It's actually quite a lot of work going into it, but it's a great one. And then earlier we had that question from Arash about the custom form field data. And we're going to jump into that right now, actually. So let's look right now at my screen here, where I have a Give form. I have it blown up really super large. I'm going to shrink that down just a little bit. There we go. Okay, and here's our admin. So there are two, like Lisa mentioned, there are actually two ways that you can implement custom fields on your Give form. Let's go real quick to GitHub. All of our public information is public code is on GitHub, and we host a lot of things here. Specifically, this is our Give snippet library, where we host a lot of snippets. If you have interacted with us in any way through our support channel, then and you wanted to do something like change a label or change the way something functions exactly, we most likely gave you a PHP snippet or a JavaScript snippet. And 9 times out of 10, that snippet exists here already in our Give Snippet library. And you can find that by going to github.com/wordimpress/give-snippet-library. And I'll add this link to our post for later reference. But one of the snippets in here is actually not even really a snippet. It's actually more like a custom plugin. And it is basically our custom fields plugin that is an example of how you can add custom fields to your forms, but with code rather than with our form field manager. We had this released before form field manager was even released. And I'm not going to go line by line through this, but suffice to say that this is one straightforward way that you can add your custom fields. And basically, if you're familiar with coding or with PHP, coding in general with WordPress, then you can add anything you want to your Give forms here. Now, how you're going to pass that data to your gateway and whatnot is a different question. But if you're doing a standard text field in one way or another, or any kind of standard form field, then we have these examples here that will allow you to pass that to our donation details screen, no problem. That can also can pass that to your gateway if necessary, and it saves it for you to view on the donation details screen, and it all is here for you. And this one works right out of the box. If you just install this like a plugin, you download this one file and install it like a plugin, it'll add a couple sample fields to your forms automatically. This one right here, I'll just point out in case you do install this like a plugin. This one right here is actually only applying these fields to forms that have the ID of 754. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. That have an ID of 754 or 586. These are random numbers, but basically this one is only adding the fields to forms with those IDs. So if you do install this plugin, you're going to want to update those IDs to be the IDs of your Give forms, or you're going to want to just remove this conditional statement altogether, so that it's applied to all of your forms. And if you're doing it this way, you can hit us up in our support channel and we can help guide you a little bit. We don't provide really detailed support for custom solutions, but we do try to guide you as much as possible. So keep that in mind. But the standard way that most everybody really likes adding form custom fields to their donation form is with Form Field Manager, which is right here. You can see here that once you have Form Field Manager installed and activated, it adds this meta box to your Give donation form screen. And this is actually typically at the very bottom of the screen, but I've pulled it up to be at the very top because I like having it handy. Right now, this form has no custom fields on it at all. But you can add them right here. So for example, we're just going to click text, and it adds this new meta box here that's a text box. Immediately we can ask whether it's required or not. I'm going to put no for now, and I'm going to say in honor of. And I tabbed over and it created my meta key automatically. Help text is what appears in the tooltip. You can leave it empty for no tooltip at all, or you can say, who would you like to donate in honor of, or let's say better, the person. You can also add a CSS class name to this field, a custom one that you would like. You can put placeholder text, say like first name, let's say first and last name. And there could be a default value as well, which we'll leave that off in this case. And you could change the size of it. Let me point out a couple important elements here that are good to remember. So, for example, I talked about how the less fields there are on the form, the more likely they are to donate. That's also true with required fields. You can have additional fields on here that are also just not required. With Give, they'll see that red asterisk next to any field that is required, and maybe you're going to just say, hey, if you have a second to add this information, that would be great, but it's not required. That way, at least they get to skip that field if they're just not interested in sharing that. So that is an option. But even if you don't require it, every time you add new fields, it makes your form longer and longer, and which still can be problematic. If your donors come to your donation page and they just see a big long list of empty fields waiting for them there, it's intimidating, and it's like, oh, this is going to take forever, I don't want to do this, and they bounce. So even if they're not required, that sometimes still can be problematic. But as soon as you decide, okay, we need to add this field in there, then the next question is, well, is it really required or not? Do we have to have this information? So those are important things to remember. The next one is the help desk, the field label. These should just be as explicit as possible. What you want to always try to say in these fields is exactly what you want. So in this case, I said in honor of, which is kind of like a general title for that field. And then the help text is making that really specific, exactly what we're looking for. And then the placeholder gives them exactly the format of what it is we're looking for. So you're not just giving them the idea of what it is, you're also giving them specifically what you're looking for and the format that they should give it to you in. Those are important details. I would say in general, don't add placeholder text unless the format is really important. If they just said Penny, can you really do anything with just their first name? I'm giving in honor of Penny. Can you do anything with that information? Maybe, maybe not. So if you need it in a specific format, make sure to make that explicit. Some other really great fields, if you want to just have them give you some general feedback, you can add a text area. Those fields are very similar to the text one, but this is now the text area. Text area fields have a little bit different size settings, rows and columns instead of width. You can also add for it to be just a normal text area that's just like a box like this, or you could allow them to add formatting to it if you want them to be able to do some basic bold and italics. Or you can even allow it to be a much more robust text area to allow them to do even more formatting. If they're submitting something to you that needs formatting, like maybe they have a specific way they want a thank you card to be formatted. So there's options here for you as well. And again, the required, same thing, help text and placeholder text, all those things are things you need to consider as well. I'll just go through, not adding all of them, but just mentioning what they are. A drop-down, of course, is a great way for you to ask which fund you want something to be submitted to. You can give them options in a drop-down, like homeless and senior and youth is what we keep saying on this webinar. If a date is important, maybe you're asking for donations for a specific appointment, a calendar appointment. You can ask them to provide a suggested date that they would like to make that appointment. Radio buttons is basically a list of radio buttons, and the different it's basically the same idea as the drop down, but they're radio buttons instead of a drop down. A checkbox is different than the drop down on the radio in the sense that they can check off additional ones. So if you want people to give if you want people to have the ability to give to multiple funds, I want to give to the homeless and to the youth, then you might split that donation 50-50. Additional email addresses, this is helpful for like that event registration, like I mentioned before, that maybe you want to get the email addresses of the additional guests that are coming. Phone number, they can upload a file. This can be a lot of fun if you're doing a crowdfunding type page where you want them to be able to upload a submission in one way or another, maybe a picture of themselves, all kinds of things. They can submit a website. Multi-select is like the checkbox, but it's a list, and they can check off multiples. A repeat field, let me show that real quick because some people aren't familiar with repeat fields. This one is actually the best for the event registration. Arash, I'll get to your question in just 1 second. That's a good question too. Let's say guests on the field label. Names of guests you are bringing to the event. Multi-column or not. This is basically to say, actually, let's do it this way. We can say names and emails. That's what the multi-columns is for. So this one's going to be names, and this one's going to be, well, not names, it's going to be name and email. Now, basically, they're able, this is right here, this is a repeater field. It allows you to add an additional one or subtract an additional one. And what they're going to do, I'll show that on the front here so you can see it live. Let's refresh. Oh, here's that text area. I guess I chose the rich text field in honor of. Here's the first and last name. And now guest. And now we have the name. I'm going to say Matt. And the email is matt@givewp.com. And then I'm going to add Kevin, who's on the call right now. Kevin Hoffman. And he's kevin@givewp.com. Now you're getting you're adding as many guests as you want to this event registration. This is a really great way to do that. Arash is asking, would you recommend us wait for in honor of add-on versus adding custom fields, name and honor, mailing address, etc.? I guess I'm asking if there are additional features coming. Yes, there's always additional features coming. Always, always, always. Form Field Manager is something we're going to continue to invest in heavily. There's some great stuff that we're working on in there to be able to interact with our recurring donations add-on more, to also to support Zapier better, all kinds of stuff we're working on there. And then the in honor of add-on that we're working on, that is going to have some features that you wouldn't be able to get in Form Field Manager at all. For example, like I said, if you choose, for example, one thing it's going to do is it's going to have what we would call conditional fields. So the first thing you'll ask is, would you like to make this donation in honor or memory of somebody? And if you choose yes, then those additional fields will show up. This is what the add-on will do. And then it'll say in honor of or memory of, because those can be handled differently. So, for example, if it's in honor of somebody living, of course, you would then also want to ask them for the mailing address of that person. And then the mailing address fields will show up if they choose in honor of. Or if it's in memory of, then maybe you want to send that thank you card to somebody who's living, like the son or daughter of the person who is deceased. So then it's going to ask, who would you like to send this in memory of thank you card to? And then you need to get their name because the name of that person is different than the person you're giving in memory of. So there are definitely, and then of course you'll want to get their email address so that maybe they get an email notification of the donation immediately. And then, like I said, there is probably some different types of reporting that we'll implement on that. So you might want to know you might want to just get a quick list of the people who were given things in honor of. For example, often I know in Judaism, they often will do a campaign in honor of somebody when they have their bar mitzvah. And so you might want to have a report of, look, we raised $1,000 for Susie's bar mitzvah. Those are nice features that we're hoping and somewhat planning to add into that new add-on that's coming. So that one, the reason why the reason why it's not out yet is we want to make sure also that we do it right and we do it well. And it's going to take a little bit of time for sure. And there's a lot of different features. It's not just simply a custom field. It's a lot of different things. So Yeah, absolutely. We don't have an ETA right now. It's something that we are actively working on, but we don't have an ETA at the moment. And you know what, this isn't totally relevant to this subject, but I will say we do generally avoid ETAs in general unless something is basically done. Once something is basically done and we're just working on the marketing of it, we do start to try to tell people in advance that it's absolutely really coming. And the reason just is because development is difficult. You never know what you're going to find once you start building stuff out. Especially when you're building something out like this that nobody else has really built before, in the way that we build things. So we start digging in there, and we think it's straightforward, but then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, there's this whole curveball that we didn't expect. But I do personally like to talk about, to tell folks that we are working on things, and the in honor of, in memory of, is something we are working on. So I really hope to see that out relatively soon, I'll say. Cool. Arash had an earlier question as well about where information is stored. So let's do a donation here. I'm going to say this one I'm doing in memory of, in honor of, not in memory. No. In honor of Arash, because he's awesome. And I guess I already filled out there. But this is in honor of and an event registration form. This is getting complicated. Here's all my information. It's all here already, and I'm just going to do donate now. Everything is complete here. And there we go. So now let's go into the Give Donations screen. And here we see it right here, donor registration form. That's the form I just filled out. It was in test mode. It was $1. And now let's look at the details. And here we have it right here. This is where all the information about those form field, that additional data is stored. And this is also the case if you choose to add your fields with the code that Lisa referenced earlier that we saw on GitHub. Excuse me. This is first the basic generic information that you see here, and that we collected, and now we see custom form fields. This one's in honor of Arash. It's jumping out here a little bit. That's a little bit of a bug we'll have to work on. And then here's those guest names as well. So all of that is saved right here. And you'll notice that it's also editable right here. We can actually, even after the donation is made, let's say the donor emails us later and says, oh, I did the wrong thing. It wasn't supposed to be Arash, it was supposed to be Lisa. Well, we can go in there and we just update it and say Lisa instead. Poor Arash doesn't get his in honor of donation. Lisa gets it instead. And we just hit update fields and we're good there. So all this information is available right there for you, whether you do that with Form Field Manager or with code. So that's the quick and dirty overview. That's how you get it done with Form Field Manager. That's how you get it done with our Give snippets. That is also the way custom form fields can be problematic, how they can be great, all of the above. That's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to just hang out for just a little bit. If you have additional questions, of course, I would love to hear all of your great feedback right now. If you want to say, oh, that was perfect, that was awesome, that was wonderful, how do you do it, Matt? All those things, I'll love it. Let me know what you think if you have additional questions. Lisa, did I answer your questions? Are you good? Arash, you said that you understood. Did that make sense? That sounds good. And you have additional questions? Cece, I see you there, Cece. I hope you're still there. Cece, do you have any questions? Jay is trolling me about formidable forms. I guess you can use formidable if you really like to. That's fine. Veronica, cool. Arash, not sure if I missed that part, but the custom form field comes into as a shortcode for email. Oh, I missed that part. Yes. Cool. Let me get back into that. Thanks for following up on that. So let's get back over here. We go to our settings. We're going to go to emails. And right now, the best option that we have with the custom fields in the emails, basically this is where your emails are. You go to settings, you go to emails, you scroll down here, and all of the dynamic information that comes from each donation. This one is the one that goes to the donation receipt. This goes to the donor. All of this is dynamic information. Donor, full name. This is going to be Arash right here. This is actually the form, the name of the form. This is when the donation happened. This is how much was donated. And then down here is all of those dynamic field shortcodes that you can use. And this one right here, all custom fields, that one is the one that is used for Form Field Manager. So you might just go in here and say additional info. That is the one that's going to get you there. We have a couple different documentation articles about emails on our website. One in particular is about troubleshooting emails. I always recommend it whenever you're changing stuff here so you can see what it's going to look like. One plugin we recommend regularly is called Email Cop. You install Email Cop on your site, and it actually is going to basically trap emails from leaving WordPress and let you see them before they go out. So that's a great one to use when your site is not active, to double check to see what a donation receipt looks like when it goes out to the donor and see all those custom fields being added to that email right there. Good question. Veronica has a question. Have you seen for donations that offer a reward gift perk that the donor has the option to reject the tangible gift? I have seen that. That's a really good question. We don't have a feature like that out of the box at the moment. But if you're offering a tangible gift in one way or another, from what I've seen in the past, most often that amount, let's say you're giving them a coffee cup that costs $5. What I most often have seen is that's basically an accounting function at the end of the day. The donation comes in as $100, but it's going to be recorded in accounting as $95 because there's a tangible good that's given that's worth the standard value of $5. That's really much more of an accounting issue than it is an actual donation form issue. So how you handle that exactly is up to you, and how you manage your perks and whatnot. But what I would do in that case is basically you could like on the form itself is your question. I know I would just ask them there basically a yes or no question, because that's part, and you could do that as a radio button maybe. Let's do that. Let's say accept. Say accept thank you gift. Yeah, but the question is if the donor doesn't want the gift. That's right. So we're going to add a radio button here that says accept thank you gift as a question. We're going to add that question mark there to indicate that they need to answer that question, and we're going to make it required because we really want to know. And then in the help text, we're going to say, would you like to accept a gift from us as thank you? Or you could maybe even say, even more explicit, saying no means you won't get our coffee cup and your whole amount is a donation, something to that effect. There's much better ways to say this for sure than what I'm saying. And then in our options, we would say, let's say yes, and then no, because our question is accept thank you gift. So, and we're going to make the default be yes. While we're in here, just to make it easier, I'm going to get rid of these other ones. I'll remove it. I'll remove it. And then what ends up happening there is now whoever gets that email is going to, whoever gets the admin who gets that email, they're going to see whether that donor said yes or no to that question. when I checked this box right here, when I checked this button, that made it the default. The default answer is yes. So the donor is actually going to have to change that if they want to say no. So there might be other ways that you want to ask that question. You might want to make it a radio field so that there's no default in one way or another. But let's go over to the donation. Oh, I'm at the receipt. Let's go to the donation form, refresh it. So accept thank you gift. And right now they're saying yes. So, and then when you'll see that answer in the donation details, or of course you'll see that in the email, admin email, as long as we do like Arash was saying that we want to add that all custom fields to the admin email as well. So right now we added that here to the donation receipt. Oh, I didn't save it earlier. Let's see, all custom fields is the one we want. And right here is new donation notification email. So here, hey there, this email is informing you that a new donation was made. Does the donor want the gift? And I just say all custom fields. And now it's going to provide that admin with that answer. And then that way you can handle whether you're actually going to physically mail that gift to that donor or not. And the accountant will also know whether or not that donation has the $5 deducted or not. So that's a really basic way that you could go about it. I hope that makes sense. So cool. Veronica, does that help? Is that more or less what you're looking for? Arash, you use Give for all your nonprofit clients. Awesome. That sounds great. Awesome. Thanks, Veronica. Perfect. Ben is my hero. If anybody doesn't know Ben, they need to know Ben. Awesome, folks. So good to see so many people interacting on Give Live today. I hope to see you guys next month. Remember, next month is Wednesday in the early evening in California. It's going to be 5 o'clock Wednesday. Chris Tietzel is going to be with us. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be about security, a really important subject with everything related to websites, but also specifically with donations. Cool. Thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy your day, your Tuesday, and we'll be in touch. As always, feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Bye.